Hello, Nova Nation. It's WXVU Villanova Sports Director David Szczepanski coming to you from the WXVU studio. You may be able to hear it throughout this video. Very windy, very rainy outside here in this Wednesday afternoon. Just got done filming an episode of Villanova Sports Talk, and it is now time to do a Villanova men's basketball preview as your Villanova Wildcats, winners of 4 of the last 5 with a 6-4 overall record, get ready to take on the Fairleigh Dickinson Knights tonight at the Finneran Pavilion at 7 p.m. Villanova, as I said, 6-4, coming off of a 94-65 win against Temple in the third-place game of the Philly Big 5 Classic on Saturday afternoon at the Wells Fargo Center. Villanova, as I said in the open, they have won 4 of their last 5 games. They've really put together a nice winning streak. They've won 3 straight games, including wins against Rider, against number 14 Cincinnati at the time, as well as against Temple. As for Fairleigh Dickinson, they have really struggled this season. They are 4-7 overall. They are 0-6 on the road this year. They have yet to win a game away from their home arena. When you look at some of the stats, Fairleigh Dickinson averaging 81 points per contest. Their leading scorer is Terrence Brown, who's a sophomore, averaging more than 21 points per game, but Brown averaged just around 9 or 10 points per game last season for FDU, so he's definitely taken a big step forward this year for the Knights. Some other players, Joel Emmanuel, as well as Dylan Jones, both of those players averaging more than 10 points. Dylan Jones averaging around 12, Joel Emmanuel averaging around 10, a little bit more than 10, almost 10.5 points per game for Fairleigh Dickinson, but they average 80 points per game. They shoot the ball really well from behind the arc, about 38%. So they do a lot of things good offensively, a lot of things well offensively. They're also a pretty good team at getting assists and moving the ball effectively. But their big issue this season has been their defense. According to Ken Palm, they are one of the worst teams in the country in defense. They give up about 80 points per contest. They really struggle in many different aspects of the defense. When you look at their three-point percentages, when you look at what they're allowing teams to shoot against them from the field, I mean, you know, those numbers really kind of stand out as big issues for this FDU defense. And, you know, anytime you're giving up 80, 81 points per game, I mean, if you're scoring 81 points per game, that's great. But if your defense on the other end of the court is giving up 80, 81 points per game, allowing teams to shoot really well from the field, allowing teams to shoot really well from behind the arc, you're going to struggle and lose most games when your defense is that bad. And in addition to that, this FDU team, they're not great at forcing turnovers. They will limit turnovers somewhere around 12 or 13 turnovers per game, but what also really hurts them is they really struggle at rebounding, right? This FDU team, they're only averaging about 34, 35 rebounds per contest. So when you look at, you know, some of the teams they faced this year, which I think has also helped them offensively, I mean, they're 4-7, but really they have not had an impressive win yet this season against a good program, even, you know, a middle tier program, if you will. So they've beat up on some teams, some pretty bad teams. You know, they've scored, you know, in the high 90s, almost 100 points per game. And when they played good teams, when you look at Creighton, when you look at when they played Nebraska, even when you look at when they played Army, I mean, they have, you know, only scored about 60, 70 points per game, much lower than where they're at for the season average of around 80, 81 points per contest. So I think Villanova's, you know, defense, you know, and the good teams they played this season, when you look at Cincinnati, I think they can really cause some trouble for this FDU offense, even though, you know, they're off to a really good start this season. And I completely trust Villanova's offensive score. I mean, they've done so at a really high level, especially in this 3-game winning streak. I expect them to do the same against FDU tonight. I think some of the keys to the game to watch, right? Eric Dixon, the second leading scorer in the country, averaging almost 26 points per game, scored 24 points against Temple. Villanova also tied a program high with 19 made threes in the game against Temple on Saturday. So, I mean, really just shooting really well from behind the arc. Over 60% from 3 in the game against Temple on Saturday in the Philly Big 5 Classic. So my first key to the game, I think, for the Wildcats, really, I mean, just find a way to score offensively, right? I mean, Eric Dixon, you know, try to get him some points, but I think this is another great opportunity for Villanova to kind of share the wealth, if you will, share the points, and really get a lot of different players involved in the scoring effort for the Wildcats tonight. So try to find some balanced scoring. I don't think it all has to go through Eric Dixon. I would imagine that FDU is going to do everything that they can, like Rider did in that game against Eric Dixon, to try to limit Eric Dixon, double him at all times, and force him to do more in the assist game and the rebounding category. That's really been the only way that a team has been able to somewhat even contain Eric Dixon this season. So have a balanced offensive attack. I think that, you know, should be pretty easy for Villanova to execute, just because, you know, as I said earlier, the defense of FDU has really struggled this season. My second key to the game for Villanova is just to limit turnovers, right? right? I mean, this FDU team, even though they have a pretty good offense, their defense will give up a lot of points. Don't give FDU chances on the other end of the court and give them extra possessions to really hurt you offensively. So for the Wildcats, limit the turnovers. They have done a really excellent job at that over the past few games, and I expect them to do that again in this game against FDU, despite some early season struggles at turning the ball over. And my third key to the game for the Villanova Wildcats is just to get off to a good start, right? When you look at the games that Villanova has lost this season, you look at the loss to Columbia, you look at the loss to Virginia, and if you take out the first 5 or 6 minutes of that game in Virginia, you look at most of the first half, Villanova really struggled, but you also look at some of the other losses the Wildcats have had this season that have really been tough losses. Villanova has really struggled to get off to a hot start at times this year, but over the past 3 games on this winning streak, and even you can say, 4 of their last 5, they're winners of 4 of their last 5. You look at the game against Maryland, where even they lost by 1 in the Empire Classic. They got off to a good start, and they were able to keep the game somewhat close against a very good Maryland team. And that's really kind of been a pattern over this, 4 or 5 game stretch where Villanova has really looked better. So get off to a good start. Don't give FDU any false hope or any hope that they can try to beat you and pull out this victory against the Wildcats. As Columbia, Columbia got some hope in that game against the Wildcats at the Finn earlier this season, and they were able to pull out a 10-point victory. So don't give FDU any hope that they can win this game against the Wildcats. So again, my 3 keys to the game: have a balanced offense. Doesn't have to go through Eric Dickinson, even though it will be great if Dickinson can score 20-plus points again tonight. Second key to the game for the Wildcats: limit turnovers. Third key to the game: get off to a good start, right? Final game before conference play starts next week against Seton Hall. The last thing you want to do is, lose the game to FDU, or even have a very close win against FDU where you only win by 3 points, 2 points. So take advantage of playing a weaker non-conference opponent tonight, and I think the Wildcats really will do that. So our WXVU pregame coverage will begin at 6:30 p.m. live from the Finn. 7 p.m. is tip-off. Thank you for watching this preview. I hope you enjoyed it. I have more coverage on my social media. I'm WXVU Sports Director David Szczepanski, coming to you from the WXVU studio. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, Nova Nation. And as always, go Cats!